When I was a little girl, I loved being outside in the dark. If I was alone, I'd be filled with the shiver rush of maybe not being safe. I never strayed so far that I couldn't run back to the safety of the glow cast by the living room lamp out the window. As I got older, my adventures were seldomly solo, and safety was never again as tangible as a light beckoning like a homing signal. Boys began to call, to the dismay of my mother, and thinking of kissing became consuming. But I never liked the princess stories where the girl grew up and fell in love. I liked the fairy tales about lost girls like Alice, who grew up and fell in crazy instead, tumbling headfirst into a topsy-turvy race to disaster. My thoughts were often like that, tumbling over themselves, eluding clarity but looking so pretty on paper that I began to write them down. Singing love only second to madness, I found despair in the lack of cohesive imagery. I began to collect lost girls, mad women, descendants of Eve who are defected by nature, to sing me moonstruck songs into a dreamless sleep. Upon waking, my words began to write themselves. This next one is from my other book, my second book, Fever Dreams. I wrote it a few years ago after my grandfather passed away. We read it at the lake. We called him G-Daddy, so that's what it's called, G-Daddy. My grandfather was a man with some of the bluest eyes you've ever seen, and he rolled them behind my grandmother's back. Often. He was like that. Always quick with a wink, a sweet treat, and don't tell your mother as he shared something he didn't have to. A Coke, $1, a kind word. I've always heard he was like a storm when he was young. Eyes flash lightning, heavy waves of churning water, the kind of blue that sharks inhabit, the kind of blue that pairs with black. But when I knew him, he was calm waters, breezy clouds, not loud, except the TV, when he watched the news, or gone. I wished I'd watched too. But I remember ice cream cones on school nights and him telling me that tattoos are really just scars like cigarette burns, and the way he asked my friends if they had ever played golf and where they were from, and didn't they think handling high was beautiful. I remember his hands, always ready to pat on the back, to give help, to hold secrets, but mostly, I remember his eyes. Thank you.